back to another episode of The Filter tonight. It is me, TJ here, as always. It has been quite some time since I've done an actual episode of my podcast. I apologize for that. I really don't have any good excuse other than I've just been preoccupied with other things. There's a lot of cool stuff coming, but also one little roadblock that I'll talk about right now. So in the last couple of weeks, I've had some really bad dental issues, and I feel odd calling them health issues because when you think about health issues, you might think of I don't know, in this day and age, either bad COVID or cancer or something like that. But let me tell you, I have learned firsthand that when people say they're having dental issues, it's no joke. So let's rewind like 3 weeks ago. I started having some sporadic pains in one of the teeth that I guess in hindsight I knew had to come out sometime this year anyway. I just knew that. It was time. I tried my best to salvage my teeth the best I can, but these things happen. I guess part of Ordeal syndrome is having that smaller space in my mouth, and these dental issues are bound to happen. But anyhow, so this one tooth started to hurt off and on for every few days. Then it gradually started getting worse. And then, let's go a week and a half later, it started to get even worse. And then it stopped. Then the next day, it stopped. And I developed for about 2 days, and I kid you not, it did not last long. I had some congestion, so I had some kind of I don't know if it was an infection or like a cold, that I was kind of sneezy, sniffly, and then that went away, and I felt fine. And then, bam, my tooth started hurting so bad, and I had the beginning stages of what could have been a really serious infection. But I went to the urgent care. I got on antibiotics, amoxicillin, for the amount of, I think it was 7 days or 8 days, whatever, and that didn't do anything. The amoxicillin didn't help. So then I had to go back to the urgent care again last Friday, and I ended up actually going straight to the ER after that because the pain was so bad. My entire right side of my face was, the best way to describe it is it was inflamed. It was in so much pain all the way up to my ear. You couldn't touch my face at all. It was that bad. And luckily, they did a lot for me, thankfully. I actually got a shot in my rear end, not to give you too much info, but then they gave me very powerful antibiotics. Didn't really give me that powerful of pain medication though, because you know how it is. They don't really, in this day and age, they are very careful not to give you too much of anything that will relieve the pain almost too well, if you know what I mean. Nothing that would be addicting, I guess. But at least that's what I understand, because they gave me Percocet, which is, if you don't know, it's basically a combination of Tylenol and oxycodone, which you would think ooh, that sounds pretty powerful. Barely touched it. It barely touched the pain. Ironically, the one thing that did keep helping was simply ibuprofen. So I kept taking ibuprofen as directed, and thank God, after a few more days, I started feeling relief. It still hurts at certain times, but that's to be expected. I'm still in pain if I'm not careful, but it is a lot better, thank God. And I have to have pretty, I guess, extensive oral surgery in the next couple weeks or so to get some teeth removed, and it's just a thing. It's a whole thing. But I'm doing better, and I'm telling you guys that not just to give you an update on me, but also to assure you that I am coming back. I really love doing this podcast. I love doing videos, not just tech-based, but just videos in general. So I am coming back. That is the piece on that. So now, getting into like the nitty-gritty substance that we all like to talk about. Something of substance, right? In this episode. It's going to be somewhat politics, but not really politics. Not about public health, I guess, technically. But here in my state, New York State, which I guess a lot of my viewers come from my area, but if you're not watching from my home state of New York, then you may not know what's going on with me, with this state, I mean. But we are one of the most, in terms of the governor and the legislature and the downstate New York City areas, we're very progressive. But we're also very much red in upstate. And that's commonly known for most people. But, so, we are kind of like, as one state, we have an identity crisis because we have people that are conservative really hating all of the governor's mandates and all this COVID crap. But then you get people in downstate who I suspect probably equally hate the mandates, but they're a little bit more afraid to say that out loud, so they go along with it because it is the progressively right thing to do in terms of, it's not as popular to say that you're against mandates, but and I like to get this disclosure before I go any further. I have to disclose that I do not aim to have either side of the aisle, whether you lean more liberal or conservative, or if you're in the middle, kind of like me. I mean, I'm smack dab in the middle. Think of the fence, right? I am right in the middle of the fence when it comes to what side I lean towards. And it's tough because, well, I guess it's not that tough actually, because how I like to see it is like this. It's so easy to say, well, there's only one right side. You have to be on the side of science, which I, in most ways, agree with. But I think there's room for both. I truly believe that we will not move ahead as a society until we come to terms with the fact, and I mean fully accept, that those sides are technically correct, and those sides are just that they get some things wrong. What do I mean by that? Well, on the, let's call it the liberal end, or the liberal, the progressive side, we have a very strong affection for mandates. And mandates are the way to go. Healthcare workers, the hell with you if you don't want to get vaccinations. You're out, you're done. And if you don't want to wear a mask, what the hell is wrong with you? Why do you want to kill people? That's kind of I'm saying that's kind of like how I analyze the mindset of that side of the fence. And then there's the conservative side, who is like, we have personal freedoms, man. This is our personal liberty, civil liberties. No one can make me wear a mask over my face if I don't want to. What the hell, government? What the hell? Go to hell, Governor Hochul. I'm not going to wear a freaking mask just because you tell me to. So we kind of have these very two dramatic, divided sides. And in my view, those sides are correct and both sides get things wrong. Because on one hand, going to the conservative side, I also align a lot of my views with that. And I know, again, some people are going to say, oh, TJ, but it's true. This is a country of civil liberties. Whether you like that concept, you should love that concept if you're an American citizen. You absolutely shouldn't debate that at all. But that doesn't stop because of a public health crisis. Now, you can get really deep and intimate in your thoughts about, well, if I don't wear a mask, am I contributing to the death of other people that might unknowingly get it from me? Could I unknowingly have it and not know it and give it to somebody else? All these things are true. But, the question lies within the scope of, does that mean that you are doing something wrong or you're a bad person if you don't want to abide by that philosophy? And for me, the answer is a resounding no. It does not mean that you're a bad person. It does not. So, whereas it's tough because I do agree with the liberal progressive end of it. I get what they're saying too, because there's a lot of fear. There is, and there's a lot of concern that, oh my God, if I do something that causes the death of somebody else health-wise, whether I meant to or not, that could be really bad. And yet, at the same time, when do we as a society get that to normal? And not only wishful thinking that happens, but actually demand it. And that's where I'm at right now, is we could let this go on for years and years if we want to. But eventually, I think, and as many other scientists and doctors have said recently too, COVID just has to become a part of society, like every other infectious disease has. Well, in terms of like the flu and things like that. That's not saying I'm comparing it to the flu, but just that we have to do something to demand a sense of normalcy. We cannot go on like this. I don't see that as being sustainable. You cannot ask American citizens who already have such a deep level of distrust in the government to continue abiding by these mandates, which in itself I sometimes disagree with. I'm not saying that there's no grounds for very short-term mandates, but I almost feel like the mask mandates and things like that, it has been taken to a different level entirely. It has become less about protecting the public health and more about imposing and stretching the scope of what you can impose on the people. And again, I'm walking a very delicate line here. I don't want to sound like one of those nut jobs who, it's probably offensive that I even say nut jobs, but let's be honest, there's some people that really go crazy. On both sides, though. To be fair, it's both sides. You get some diehard anti-government, deep woods conservatives, as I call them, who are just, they will read so deeply into any anti-government conspiracy that you throw their direction. But then you get people on the opposite end of the spectrum who are so deeply progressive that they will call you an actual killer. They will say you are a murderer if you choose to not wear a mask in public. You want people to die. That is how those sides are so dramatically divided. And I'm just sitting here like, hey man, I don't want anyone to get sick. I truly don't. I would never want that to happen. I don't want my actions to cause somebody else to get ill. Of course not. I'm not a sociopath. I'm not a psychopath. But at the same time, I also respect my civil liberties. And I respect the fact that we live in a country where there's not supposed to be long-term government mandates. I do not believe in my heart, in my heart, I do not believe that healthcare workers should have been forced off the job when they were so deeply, desperately needed during the beginning of the pandemic, when there was no vaccine. But then these hospitals, specifically here in New York State especially, they said, well, you're out. Things were helping when the pandemic started, but because you won't comply with our vaccination mandates, you're out. You're done. You're done. That's basically what the hospital said. And I think that's very disgraceful. And I do. I think that's wrong. Because if you are appreciating your healthcare workers on the front lines, that should have never stopped just because an individual who's in the healthcare industry chooses to make an individual decision about their health, which is what a vaccination is. It is a shot of the mixture of chemicals going into your arm, into your body, that may very well be preventative against getting COVID, and it might be a smart decision. I'm vaccinated. I'm boosted personally, just to give you guys full disclosure. I am, and I will very happily encourage anyone who feels comfortable. I think you should get it. And I think that's okay to say. I think you should be vaccinated and boosted. It's a wise decision for you and for the rest of society and your loved ones and family. However, I think we should absolutely stop demanding it, guilting people. That's wrong. That is not American. That's not American. You can be upset. It's okay to be angry with somebody and say, wow, you won't get vaccinated? I disagree with you. That's one thing to disagree. But to then insult people and guilt them and say, why do you want others to die? I just think that's a very un-American approach to this. Because at the end of the day, healthcare, your individual health is your civil liberty. And if you don't want to get injected or something, no matter what it is, you should not be forced to. And the thing is, some on the liberal side will try to get you into a gotcha situation, as I call it. They'll just say, yeah, look, you're technically not being forced to, you're just facing consequences. So I'll even address that. No, I don't think, for example, like the healthcare workers here in New York State, I do not think that the consequences of them refusing the vaccination should have then been fired. I'll simply say that. I don't think so. Because again, they were good enough when the pandemic started. Why are these people no longer good enough now if they make a personal decision because they are not comfortable getting the vaccine? Why are they now being told that they're done? That, I think, was a huge misstep. And I think it will go down in history 10, 20, 30 years looking back on this pandemic. I think it will be looked at as a mistake. We should be restoring these healthcare workers to their jobs because there is a very bad shortage in hospitals right now. Terrible shortage of healthcare workers. Why is that? Because we are villainizing them if they don't comply with what the government tells them to do. Now, another topic is, I'll talk about the mask mandate too, but going to another topic of what's today is Dr. Anthony Fauci. And oh boy, again, just like anything else about this pandemic, we go from people loving Dr. Fauci to some people thinking he is just the devil. He is corrupt and terrible. And again, I don't think any of that. I think Dr. Fauci is a well-respected and should be well-respected scientist in the industry. I mean, he is so well-respected. And no, none of this baloney about him being tied to China or any of that, that's all done to hogwash. That's just conspiracy bullcrap. With that being said, even he sometimes has, I feel like, overstepped what we should be hearing in America. Now, I get it. He was only trying to, around the holidays, you could hear him talking about specific scenarios. You can have this many people, but he didn't suggest doing this with certain people. Don't have too many people at your table. Maybe just do virtual holidays. None of that should be said in America. Yes, even during a pandemic, That is my belief. It's in my heart. I don't think that in this country, anybody, no government official has a business saying that if you want to have the holidays with your family and you take those consequences, or excuse me, you take those, if you're willing to face the consequences, I should say, and you know what's going to happen, you know the risk involved, no one has the right to tell you that you can't celebrate holidays with your family. It's just not American. It's not the American way. Now, going back to the purpose of why I wanted to do this in this video to begin with, it was about the huge debate going on right now in New York about the mask mandate. Well, we had one state judge last week, actually this week, it was actually this week, I think it was Tuesday, he struck down the mask mandate. He ruled it not constitutional, and he struck it down. But in less than a day later, Governor Hochul appealed it, and the mask mandate is put back into effect. Now, I think at this point it's pretty crystal clear. She's not stupid. The governor can see that there's a lot of discontent, let's call it. A lot of discontent in the state over her mask mandate and over all these not all these restrictions, but the mask mandate particularly. A lot of people want to know when normalcy will come back. And so I think it is, again, in my opinion, it is in bad judgment to continue these mandates, knowing that it's not what the people want. And I think going ahead in this year, we're going to see this even intensify. We want to go back to some kind of normalcy. And I think if they can't give that to us, well, this November is the midterm elections. And I think we're going to really see some consequences for the Democrats. Because not that this should not be, I feel this way so much, it should not be intertwined with politics, but we know it is. So there's no sense of pretending that it's not, because it is. But it will be something in terms of the midterms that we're going to see the Democrats get tested on. Are these such strict policies really going to help them or hurt them? No, I digress. So, my final thoughts of this podcast is, let's try to come to the table with each other and realize that this discussion is not over. We are about 2 years into this pandemic now, and this discussion is not even close to being over. But let's remember that while it's so easy to get angry and frustrated and upset with somebody else who doesn't have the same view as you, remember that at the end of the day, we are all Americans. And we all have to respect that there's different perspectives. And some of us, a lot of us, I would say, just feel like some of these COVID mandates are a little on the verge of just not really what should be happening in our nation. A nation that respects civil liberties. Yes, protect public health, take common sense measures. I'm not even saying don't wear a mask. I am saying you should wear a mask. But the fact that it's a mandate and that you should feel guilty if, for God knows what reason, you don't have one with you when you go into a store or something, you shouldn't feel guilt or shame or embarrassment if you have to just go shopping without one. But you can still, what I say is something is better than nothing. Carry one with you, and when you can do so realistically, put a mask on. Especially in doctor's offices. I'm all for that. I mean, you are just taking your own huge gamble if you don't go into a doctor's office or dentist's office and not have a mask on. That's one thing. But in terms of the general public, in terms of stores, shopping, malls, things of that nature, I think that it's time to really rethink all these mandates on society. And I think once we do, it'll get a lot better. Alright, guys, thank you so much for watching this and listening to this, I guess, technically. I know it's a lot all bundled into one podcast, but I appreciate you tuning in. You guys all mean so much to me, and I will be doing more episodes very soon. Please, if you like my content, go to RoadToTonightPodcast.com. Check me out on Facebook, and if you're watching this on YouTube, give my video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already. If you're on Facebook, please like my page if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, peace out for now and stay healthy and well.